Hi everyone. Merhaba arkadaşlar. Herkese hoş geldiniz. Bugün today I'll not speak of course in Turkish. I'll speak in English. So what will we cover today? Today is the grammar class, our 7th grammar class, in which we will be basically talking about reported past tense. And quite interestingly or surprisingly for many of you, Turkish language has two types of past tense. We have a present tense, we have present continuous tense, same as in English. We have future tense, a single one. But when it comes to the past tense, in Turkish we have two types of past tense, and this one is a reported one, the one that you basically for which you use the verbs to describe a case that you have not observed yourself, or something that you learned from somebody, something that you learned afterwards without experiencing or witnessing that specific action or event. So just before we start, let's kind of have a refresher. Turkish verbs can be conjugated based on 5 tenses. We already mentioned that: simple present, present continuous, simple past, reported past, and future tense. And we also have 4 modes based on which we will be describing the conditions, different moods, right? Different moods like conditional mood, imperative mood, and so on. So we have already covered 3 tenses so far: simple present, present continuous, and simple past tense. And we are covering today reported past tense. On Saturday, hopefully, we will cover future tense. And just as a refresher, an extra refresher, we also have to remember that verbs in Turkish language always end in mak or mek, which means infinitive forms of the verb are always expressed as with mak or mek, and therefore whenever we make a specific tense out of these verbs, we have to throw away mak or mek before we add any tense ending or something like that. So let's now see what is reported past tense all about. And we of course will cover affirmative, negative, interrogative, and negative interrogative forms of the reported past tense. Now, what is reported past tense? In Turkish, reported past tense is called belirsiz, duyulan, öğrenilen, hikaye, or Mişli Geçmiş Zaman. These are the different 5 versions how you can see that in literature, in grammar. So belirsiz means indefinite, duyulan means the one that has been heard, okay, that you hear from somebody, heard. Öğrenilen means the learned, which means that you learned from somebody again. Okay, hikaye means report, and Mişli means the one that ends with mış or mish. Basically speaking, that's it. So what is the purpose of this tense? The purpose of this tense is to describe actions in which you are not the direct witnesser. Witnessing person, you are not directly observing it, and therefore either it is something that reported to you, you report something that you have not observed, or it is something that you realize afterwards. Okay, you learn about something afterwards. Basically speaking, it is the case where you are not the direct observer anyway. Okay, so whether it is something reported to you, whether you report some action that you have not observed, or whether you came up with a specific case or kind of event that is not, that you realize later, that you learn later or afterwards. Okay, so that's basically the purpose of the reported past tense. And let me give you a very simple example before we start with kind of a conjugation of the verb. Imagine you really you put your cell phone in the kitchen and you were in the other room, okay, and your mother has called you multiple times. And you have not seen this. Okay, when you come back to kitchen, you see that you have missed calls, right? So you will not say annem aradı, because you have not observed her calling you. You just realize it later, learn it later, that your mom has called you. Therefore, you will say annem aramış, not aradı, Okay, not the simple past tense, not aradı, but annem aramış. Which means what? Now you realize it. You realize and notice it afterwards, after something happened. This is not reporting something. Reporting are different examples, but this is the case where you learn about something later, afterwards, or realize something afterwards, after it happens. Okay. So let's the affirmative. What do we do with affirmative case? Affirmative is a positive kind of case without any negation or without any question. So what is the rule for affirmative case? When we basically have to use, of course, verb root plus one of the four endings for the reported past tense, mış, miş, muş, müş, and then plus the personal ending, which means basically we have four possible endings. That's it. We have four possible endings, and how we do determine which ending is that. The rule for that, how we find whether it's muş, miş, müş, muş, or müş, is much simpler than in the previous tenses. Okay, we have much simpler kind of a design here. Look only at the last vowel in the root. Okay, merhaba Erika, hoş geldin. So basically, we look at the last vowel in the root, and it doesn't matter whether the root of the verb ends in a vowel or a consonant. It doesn't matter. The verb can end in vowel. The verb root, right, can end in vowel or consonant. It doesn't matter. Always look at the last vowel in the root. If the last vowel is a or u, you will get mış. If the last vowel is either e or e, you will get ending miş. Okay. If the vowel is o or u, you will get ending muş, like okumuş, bulmuş. If the last vowel is ö or ü, then you will use müş. And very simple. So there are no other rules. Okay, very simple. And that's basically how you choose whether your reported past tense will be mış, miş, muş, or müş. So let's go back now to our affirmative case and see everything in practice together with the pronunciation. So let's look at we have four verbs again, same as in the previous examples, in the previous tenses. I choose the same verbs for the purpose of simplicity. So let's look at the first person singular. Ben yapmışım, sevmişim, bulmuşum, ölmüşüm. Second person singular. Sen yapmışsın, sevmişsin, bulmuşsun, ölmüşsün. Third person singular. O yapmış, sevmiş, bulmuş, and ölmüş. And again, pay attention to the fact that the endings for this tense are always are used as a base from the third person singular. You see, mış, miş, muş, müş. That's the base. The base for the tense. For all tenses, we always use the third person singular as a base. So let's look at the first person plural. Biz yapmışız, sevmişiz, bulmuşuz, ölmüşüz. Second person plural. Siz yapmışsınız, sevmişsiniz, bulmuşsunuz, and ölmüşsünüz. And third person plural. Onlar yapmışlar, sevmişler, bulmuşlar, and ölmüşler. Okay. Let's now look at the negative. How we make this negative for this tense. It's not complex at all. So you just have to add ma or me after the verb root, and then because we only have ma or me, right, as a negation kind of a part of the verb. There are only two possibilities, either mış or miş. Okay, because you cannot have rounded letters like muş or müş here. Again, ma requires mış and me requires miş. So negation ma requires mış and negation me requires miş. Then and plus the personal ending. So therefore we have only two cases here, mış or miş. So let's look at the first person singular. Yapmamışım, sevmemişim, bulmamışım, ölmemişim. Second person singular. Sen yapmamışsın, sevmemişsin, bulmamışsın, and ölmemişsin. Third person singular. O yapmamış, sevmemiş, bulmamış, and ölmemiş. First person plural, biz yapmamışız, sevmemişiz, bulmamışız, and ölmemişiz. Second person plural, siz yapmamışsınız, sevmemişsiniz, bulmamışsınız, and ölmemişsiniz. Third person plural is onlar yapmamışlar, sevmemişler, bulmamışlar, and ölmemişler. Okay, so that's basically negative form of the reported past tense. What about interrogative case? How do we ask question with this? Interrogative is not complex either. So we have basically root plus mış, miş, muş, müş, which is already same with affirmative part, right? You have to decide basically muş, müş, muş, müş. And then that becomes stable across all parts, across all persons. What you change is the question word, okay? Mı, mi, mu, mü. And of course, there is, because of the vowel harmony, mış always requires mı, right? Miş requires mi, muş requires mu, and müş requires mü question word afterwards. Again, as a note, don't forget that all question words in Turkish language are written separately from the verbs, okay? They are not connected, they are not combined. So let's look at the first singular person. Ben yapmış mıyım, sevmiş miyim, bulmuş muyum, ölmüş müyüm? You see, u requires u, ü requires müyüm, and so on. Second person singular, sen yapmış mısın, sevmiş misin, bulmuş musun, ölmüş müsün? Third person singular, o yapmış mı, sevmiş mi, bulmuş mu, ölmüş mü? First person plural, biz yapmış mıyız, sevmiş miyiz, bulmuş muyuz, ölmüş müyüz? Second person plural, siz yapmış mısınız, sevmiş misiniz, bulmuş musunuz, and ölmüş müsünüz? And last, third person plural, onlar yapmışlar mı, sevmişler mi, bulmuşlar mı, and ölmüşler mi? So you see, what we change in the question is the question word only, not the root, okay? For the root, we only decide what it should be, mış, miş, muş, müş, and then for the personal ending, we change the question word itself, not the verb root. And let's look at the last one, the negative interrogative case for reported past tense. So what is the case for here? Here we again add ma, me before mush, mish, right? That becomes stable, and then we change the question word according to what? According to, of course, the personal endings, okay? Mıyım, mısın, etc. So yapmamış mıyım? For the first person singular, it will be what? Yapmamış mıyım? Sevmemiş miyim? Bulmamış mıyım? Ölmemiş miyim? Second person singular, sen yapmamış mısın? Sevmemiş misin? Bulmamış mısın? Ölmemiş misin? Third person singular, o yapmamış mı? Sevmemiş mi? Bulmamış mı? Ölmemiş mi? First person plural, biz yapmamış mıyız? Sevmemiş miyiz? Bulmamış mıyız? Ölmemiş miyiz? For the second person plural, yapmamış mısınız? Sevmemiş misiniz? Bulmamış mısınız? Ölmemiş misiniz? And last one, for the third person plural, onlar yapmamışlar mı? Sevmemişler mi? Bulmamışlar mı? And ölmemişler mi? Okay, so this is basically negative interrogative. Now let's look at a couple of examples before we finish our lesson for today. Now, what are the possible examples? Of course, don't forget what are the three possible cases. I mean, where do you use reported past tense? When you want, when you report something that you have not observed yourself, you have not witnessed yourself. Second, when you learn something afterwards, okay, from somebody. Or the third possible case is when you realize something later, okay, afterwards. or learning or realizing afterwards may be considered as same. So it's basically two possible cases. Either you report something that you have not witnessed, or you realize something that happened without your knowledge. Okay, so let's look at examples, a couple of examples. Okay, let me just. So let's start with the example like this. Ali kaza yapmış. Ali kaza yapmış, of course, means Ali, right? Ali had an accident, but you have heard it from somebody, or you learn it afterwards. Okay, so somebody you talk to somebody on the phone who have observed Ali's having an accident, and then you report that to your friend, saying after, of course, after kind of a after the phone call, you say Ali kaza yapmış. You don't say Ali kaza yaptı because you were not there. Okay, you will say Ali kaza yapmış. Ali had an accident. And here the point here is that you report something, right? You learn something afterwards. You report it from somebody that you have heard it from. Okay, reporting, learning afterwards. That's basically the case. Okay. The second possible example, let's say you are watching a show. Okay, it's a serial, Turkish serial, and you have not watched everything. Okay, and you come later to realize that the person in the hospital died. Okay, in the movie. Okay, in the movie, adam hastanede ölmüş. Adam hastanede ölmüş. Of course, it means basically what? You did not watch it, right? You did not watch that part of the movie, but you later realize that that person in the movie died in the hospital. Okay, adam hastanede ölmüş. The man died apparently, right? Reportedly died in the hospital. Okay, so basically it is what? Learning afterwards case, where you learn something after something happened, but you did not, you did not kind of you did not observe it, and you learn that afterwards. Okay, what about next example? You come and see your child, okay, your son or daughter has not done his or her homework. Okay, so you will say ödevini yapmamışsın. So you come and realize and learn afterwards, right, that while you were in the room, in the kitchen, he or she was supposed to do his or her homework, but when you come back and see that he or she has not done homework, you say ödevini yapmamışsın, right? Which means what? I realize it now that you have not done your homework, right? You have not done your homework. In my absence, of course, right? Realizing later, right? Realizing later that somebody did something or did not something. So in this is of course negative, right? Negative for you, singular person. Ödevini yapmamışsın. You have not done your homework. The third example, let's look at the question now. Okay, question, interrogative. Treni kaçırmışlar mı? Okay, so let's say your dad talks, your mom talks with your brother over the phone that we're supposed to leave the town on train. Okay, and you hear that your mom is kind of concerned about why they kind of stayed in the city, in the town. They could not go, and your father, without knowing what you're talking on the phone, would say what? Treni kaçırmışlar mı? Have they missed the train? So here the father doesn't know what's the speech all about. Okay, he just is wondering whether they have missed the train. Treni kaçırmışlar mı? He will not say treni kaçırdılar mı, because that's not the question where you kind of directly observe something. You were not there. You don't know what happened, and therefore you are asking without knowledge. Okay, right? Without knowledge of what happened there. Treni kaçırmışlar mı? Have they missed the train? Okay, so basically it's about trying to learn afterwards. Learn afterwards. Okay, learning afterwards. Learning afterwards. After something happened, but you're trying. Your question should be, of course, in a reported past tense because you have not been there. You don't know what happened. Let's look at this example. Dün İstanbul'a gelmiş. İstanbul, of course, it has to be here with apostrophe, okay? Because it's a proper noun. Proper nouns always are separate from the endings with apostrophe. So dün İstanbul'a gelmiş, which means basically what? Yesterday, he came to Istanbul yesterday. He came to Istanbul yesterday. It might be two cases. Somebody reports about it to you, okay, or you learn afterwards. You learn after it happens, okay, learning afterwards. That somebody came to Istanbul without letting you know, okay, you had no idea and you learned that somebody came to Istanbul. Dün İstanbul'a gelmiş. He came to Istanbul yesterday. Okay. Hocam şimdi gitmem lazım. Sonra izleyeceğim. Teşekkür ederim. Görüşürüz. Erika görüşürüz. Tamam. Bir sorun yok. It's recorded so you can watch anytime. Katıldığın için teşekkürler. Görüşmek üzere. Okay, let's continue with the examples. A couple of more examples before I finish. Okay. Let's now have an example of negative interrogative case. Negative interrogative. So, bugün tatil olduğunu söylememişler mi? Which means you don't know who did not tell them, right? Didn't they tell? Of course, it may be you, him, it doesn't matter, okay? So in parentheses, you can put kind of, didn't they tell you? Okay, let's mean it is you. Didn't they tell you it is a holiday today? Okay, it's a question mark, of course. Didn't they tell you it is a holiday today? Bugün tatil olduğunu söylememişler mi? Which means you don't know kind of where it happened, when it happened, but you are talking about something that you learned afterwards, okay? You are surprised, you realize that somebody didn't tell that person that today is a holiday. Okay, what else? Bugün, let's quickly, I have 5 more examples, okay? Bugün gece uyumamış. It's not bütün gece uyumamış, okay? He didn't sleep the whole night, okay? Which means you can learn it after in the morning, right? In the morning you come and see that, for example, your husband, your wife has not slept for the whole night, and you learn it only in the morning, okay? And when you tell about this to somebody else, you can say bütün gece uyumamış, right? Because you have not been there, you did not observe that person not sleeping. You just learn it in the morning, and therefore you report this as bütün gece uyumamış, not uyumadı, okay? Bütün gece uyumamış. Learning afterwards, learning later. This is the case of learning later, okay? Later, that realizing later, okay? Realizing later or learning later, doesn't matter. Both of them are similar here, similar examples. So you realize later in the morning that your husband, your wife did not sleep for the whole night. Okay, let's look at more examples. For example, you are a fan of Galatasaray, okay, and you don't know what happened in the last night. You did not watch the match, and you open the news to see whether your soccer team won or lost, and you learn that Galatasaray really won. You will tell about this to others. Galatasaray maçı kazanmış, not kazandı, right? Galatasaray, if you really had watched the match, you would say Galatasaray kazandı, maçı kazandı. But in this case, because you did not watch the match, you just learned from the news later, you would say Galatasaray maçı kazanmış, right? Galatasaray won the match. Okay, won the match. Learning afterwards. This is the case of learning afterwards. Okay. a couple of more examples. Are you doing good? Everything is okay so far? Is it clear? So let's assume you learned about your friends that they did not enter the exam. They went to the exam for, let's say, state exam, okay, some kind of exam, and they will, when they come back home, you learn that they have not attended the exam. That's when exactly we would say sınava girmemişler. Not girmediler. If you were with them and they did not attend the exam in front of you with your observation, you would say sınava girmediler. But because you were not there, when they came home and you learn afterwards that they did not enter the exam, they did not attend the exam, you will use girmemişler. Okay, sınava girmemişler. They didn't. Girmek means enter, but the meaning here is attend, of course. They didn't attend the exam. Okay, attendance basically is in Turkish. You can use to use the verb girmek, enter. Okay, sınava girmemişler. They didn't attend the exam. So you learn afterwards. Okay, learning afterwards. It's the same case. You learn, realize that they did not attend the exam. Okay, two more examples and then I'm done with this lesson. Kazada ölen veya yaralanan olmuş mu? This is interrogative, okay. Kazada ölen veya yaralanan olmuş mu? So you did not observe the accident, the car accident, whatever the accident it is. You don't know what really happened. So your question is, has there been any dead or injured, okay? Or olmuş mu means what? Were, right? Were there any dead or injured in the accident? Okay. Were there any dead or injured in the accident? Kazada ölen veya yaralanan olmuş mu? You see, you learn it, you hear from somebody, right? Learning afterwards. Okay. So you are asking. When you ask, because you are not there, you did not observe it, you will ask with mish, mush, mish, okay? That case, reported past tense. And the last example is, imagine you go out, okay, with your friends. You want to go to the restaurant. You went to the restaurant, and you drink your coffee together with your friend, okay, and then you suddenly, when the time to pay comes, you suddenly realize that you forgot your wallet at home. This is exactly when you will tell your friend, cüzdanı evde unutmuşum. Okay, not unuttum. It's unutmuşum because you just realize it. You didn't know about this. Okay, because if you knew, you will not forget, right? You will not forget your wallet at home if you knew about it, if you observed it. But you were not there, you did not observe, you are not aware of this, and therefore you say not unuttum but unutmuşum. So you realize that you forgot, right? I forgot my wallet at home. This is the case when you realize something later, okay? Realizing later. So this is basically examples for you to better understand how we use the reported past tense. I hope it was clear. And if you have any questions, if you really have some other topics that you want to be covered in these live sessions in the future, just write under the comments, under this video in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to respond to them. If something is not clear about this lesson specifically, also write that in the comments section. If you are still not have not subscribed to this channel yet, I highly encourage you to subscribe, and I will appreciate your feedback or positive feedback and likes to the videos you watch if you like them. I hope you like this video. On Saturday we will cover the lesson on future tense, okay, future tense in Turkish language, and by that we will complete our 5 tenses for Turkish language, and then we will switch to moods, 4 moods, possible moods that we can have in Turkish language. So that's basically it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next lessons, specifically on Saturday. Görüşmek üzere arkadaşlar. Hepiniz kendinize iyi bakın. Bye bye. Okay, just before we can just before we conclude, Susan has a question here about what's the difference between unutmuşum and unutmuştum. Unutmuştum means I had forgotten. Okay, it's a combination of simple present tense and reported past tense. Therefore, you will say unutmuştum, I had forgotten. Okay, for example, after you leave the restaurant, and go to, let's say, and you go home, your mom asks you how it went, how was the meeting with your friend. You will tell your friend, so your mom, that I had forgotten the wallet. Okay, cüzdanı unutmuştum. That is the difference between unutmuşum. Unutmuşum is when you realize you have forgotten and you just report it in that present tense. Okay, unutmuşum. I forgot. I apparently. It is kind of clear that I forgot my wallet at home. You realize it at that specific time. But when you also say, same as in English, I had forgotten, okay? So I had forgotten will be unutmuştum. We will see that in the further classes when we will be combining those different tenses, having different combinations, okay? Yapacaktım, for example, I was going to do. For example, yapacağım means I will do, right? But yapacaktım means I was going to do. Or yapıyordum, I was doing. So you combine the past tense with the present continuous tense, right? Which means what? Past continuous tense. Same with this one, you combine here the present simple past tense with reported past tense to mean I had done something, okay? Unutmuşum is that one. By the way, I forgot also to open the music for this video, so it's a very dry lesson today without any music. You are welcome, Susan. Rica ederim. All right. See you all in the next lessons. Görüşmek üzere. Bye bye.